passion research proposal. So before I could get started on research and my methodology, I had to assess a problem in the school so that hopefully through this research I can find a solution that won't only impact my classroom, but maybe your classrooms or classrooms across the building. So based on conversations with Mr. Haas, the principal, team meetings, leadership meetings, and just talking with the whole school, problems we're seeing at the school: students aren't turning in their work, students aren't completing their work, students aren't turning in quality work in a timely manner, and students aren't being held accountable for their learning. So this is something we've talked about, and this is an issue across the school. Looking at the makeup of our school, as of 2018-2019, we have 13% of our students receiving special education services. We have over half of our student body, 53% as of last year, that are qualified for free or reduced lunch. So that tells us a lot that we have a variety of different students with different learning styles coming from different homes that we have to help with. So when we have our classes ranging from 20 to 31 students, it becomes really difficult to engage every single student, to meet the needs of every single student, to differentiate material for all of our students coming from all these different backgrounds with all of these different needs. And for some of us, especially in larger classroom settings and with more reserved students, it becomes difficult to strengthen relationships between both peers and with teachers. So as we all kind of know, students coming from low-income households, they have lower academic achievement, they're more likely to struggle in classrooms, struggle with engagement, typically need more additional support, and they take longer to develop academic skills and behaviors. In conversations I've had with teachers who have worked here for years, they tell me as the number of students receiving free and reduced lunches go up, student achievement typically goes down. So we're seeing that consensus, but obviously we can't give up on these kids. We can't just be like, okay, they're not going to get it. So research does show that classroom environment plays an important role in the academic outcomes for such students. And teachers who utilize multiple teaching strategies and try to change things up in the classroom for those particular students, they see more positive results. So the strategy that I want to implement is small group instruction. So that is my main focus for this project. And there's different types of small group instruction. So I'm first going to define what whole group instruction is and what small group instruction is. So whole group, that's a typical whole class instruction. I know I start my classes with that, and that's where the teacher's at the front of the room, and they're directly instructing every single student in the classroom. So essentially what I'm doing right now with all of you. While small group instruction, that allows the teacher to direct or facilitate a lesson with a group of 2 to 6 students. This provides students with an opportunity to collaborate not only with other students, but also with the teacher. So my research question that I will be researching is, does small group instruction have a positive impact on student achievement? The purpose will determine if it does have that positive impact, and I expect to find that students who engage in small group instruction will submit higher quality work in a timely manner, and we will see student achievement levels increase. So I'm going to share some of the research that I was able to find. I try to condense it down for you guys. So the overall research with small group instruction, research has shown that small group instruction positively affects student self-concept, self-esteem, their interpersonal relationships in the classroom, and student achievement. It allows students more opportunities to gain and share information with each other from peer to peer, also to ask questions to the teacher, especially our more reserved students who don't really get that attention in class, and to get immediate answers. Teachers can provide differentiated instruction in a small and more intimate setting in that way, and it helps develop students' critical thinking and higher order skills. It has also been found to see great improvement amongst both special ed students and students in general education. So one concept that kept coming up in my research so much, in fact, that I almost completely changed my methodology, was cooperative learning. So cooperative learning, I'm sure we've heard about it before. It involves student group members making contributions individually in order to maximize learning to attempt to achieve a goal for the entire group. So students are in a group together, but they're led by their individual groups, and teachers are facilitating from outside of the group. So it's up to them to decide how that group's going to lay out and what's going to be covered. When this done effectively, these cooperative small groups can help foster higher levels of student engagement. But as I continue to read about this, I didn't really see this having a huge impact on our student population. In fact, this is something that I would maybe want to do with my high ability students, not my inclusive students and not my general education classes either. I just felt like this would not be most appropriate for them. So as I found more studies on this, there were some cons with cooperative learning. So with that type of small group instruction, students, they don't always engage in productive dialogue with group members. They don't have that adult to give them purposeful dialogue, to start that conversation. So they struggle to have that. Students often engage in off-task behaviors. If there's one teacher in the room trying to support each group, you're not going to see as much on-task behavior in groups without the teacher assisting. And in some instances, teachers and students hardly interact during that time. Teachers kind of stay off on their own and don't really support those groups. So this type of small group instruction, I don't think it would have a positive impact on our specific group of students. So instead, when I implement this, I'm going to be doing teacher-led small groups. So with teacher-led small groups, it allows for interaction between students and teachers. It allows and encourages strong teacher support, which our kids really need, especially if they're coming from bad or low-income households. And through that engagement, students are able to engage in complex thinking through the purposeful dialogue guided by the teacher. The teacher isn't the only one talking, but they're the person guiding the conversation, making sure it's going in a positive direction. So overall, kind of summarizing everything I was able to find during this project, working with small groups provides students with a chance to collaborate with peers and again get that immediate support from teachers. Such a strategy can have a huge impact, especially students who are so used to being one voice against 25 or more students. So it shows that students' performance has shown a dramatic increase when they spend more time in small group instruction, and student achievement and quality work should also increase over time as well. So that leads us into what I'm actually going to be doing in the classroom. So I decided to focus on my 2 inclusive classrooms. So my experimental group will have 24 students. There will be 10 females, 14 males. 8 of those students are receiving special education services. While the other group that will not be provided small group instruction, my control group, very similar in the makeup, 25 students. It's an inclusive classroom, similar makeup and genders, but with only 7 students receiving special education services. So in the end, I'll be able to compare the data between these 2 groups, and because they're so similar, I think it'll help my data. So before I jump into the actual procedure, just letting you know, the research I found proves that small groups should serve as a supplement to conventional instruction rather than an alternative instruction. So that won't be my only way of teaching. This is something that I will only be doing about 2 times a week with the students. So 2 times a week, students will be involved in small group instruction led by me. Each group will consist of 6 students. I will pick the students randomly. If I see that there's issues with behaviors, obviously, I will change the groups up as we meet. One group will meet at a single time. The rest of the students will get support from the special education student or the teacher or the IA that's in here, and they will work individually. The length of the time of the group is dependent on the content. It might be a 10-minute meeting, or maybe it might be longer. During this small group instruction, I will lead either mini discussions or mini lessons, or I will create an activity based on the novel Touching Spirit Bear. So when I do this study, that will be part of the curriculum is through that novel study. And when other students are working independently, they will either be working on anticipatory sets to prepare them for the small group, exit tickets, kind of wrapping up what we discussed in the small group, or listening to an audio recording of the novel independently. If necessary, if I find that we need more time to do these groups, I have John, our special education teacher, in this class period, and he has offered to work simultaneously with a second group of students as well. So there could be 2 groups going at one time and continue to rotate. The control group will be facilitated completely through whole group instruction. The exact same content will be covered. There will still be teacher support, just not in that small group environment. And the same assignments will be assigned almost the exact same or in a very, very similar format. Some data that I will be collecting through this study: I will keep observations in a journal from small group interactions, conversations I hear, questions being asked, and general feedback from students, because I know for sure they will be talking about whether they liked it, didn't like it, or felt that it was successful. I will keep a log of missing assignments collected from both groups to see if the experimental group has more assignments turned in. At the end of each small group session, I will also provide exit tickets as a formative assessment to gain results to see if they were able to gain that content information. At the end of the study, I will send out an online survey to the class that did small group instruction just to get their feedback to see if it was effective. And then to get some quantitative data, I will provide 2 summative assessments. One will be an essay graded on a 4-point scale. The other being a multiple choice test covering topics and content delivered during that whole group instruction. So a variety of different data methods that I will be collecting. And once that data is collected towards the end, I will analyze themes and patterns that arise, and I will translate any abstract ideas into concrete categories. And obviously the data from the summative assessments will give me more ideas on if it was effective or not. So based on what is known from the literature that I was able to research, I expect to find that small group instruction will have a positive impact on student achievement, and I expect to find changes in attitudes, especially from our students who typically do not engage with their peers or with their classroom teachers in a normal whole group setting. Are there any questions or any feedback?